Fear is something we all carry within us. It's that silent whisper that tells us we are not good enough, that maybe we are not ready, that perhaps the world is too big for us and our dreams too small to matter. It creeps in when we stand at the edge of something new, when we dare to step into the unknown, and it holds us back as if chains are wrapped around our feet. But let me tell you this: acknowledging fear is not a sign of weakness. It is the very first step towards strength. The real problem is not fear itself. The real problem is pretending that we are fearless. Because in that pretense, we lose the chance to confront what scares us, and we let fear rule us from the shadows. I remember once being paralyzed by the thought of failing, as if failure would define me forever. Every time I wanted to move forward, fear would come and whisper, "What if you fall? What if you embarrass yourself? What if people laugh at you?" And the truth is, sometimes people do laugh, sometimes we do fall, but what matters is what happens after that fall. Do we stay down or do we rise again? And rising begins only when we admit that we are scared, but still willing to move forward anyway. Courage has never been the absence of fear. It has always been the decision to walk with fear, holding our hand, but not letting it lead us. We grow up thinking that fear is our enemy, that it is something to be destroyed or avoided at all costs. But in reality, fear is like a mirror. It shows us where our limits are, or at least where we believe they are. When we fear speaking in public, it reveals that deep down, we crave acceptance. When we fear failure, it shows that we value success. When we fear losing someone, it shows how much we love. So fear is not the enemy. It is simply a reminder of what matters most to us. By acknowledging it, we begin to understand ourselves better. And when we understand ourselves, we take the first step toward transformation. Think about it. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary was scared at the beginning. The difference was not that they didn't feel fear. It was that they chose not to let it stop them. They embraced the trembling hands, the racing heartbeat, the sleepless nights, and they used that energy as fuel instead of a prison. Imagine if a painter had been too afraid of criticism to pick up the brush, or if an inventor had been too afraid of failure to try again after every broken attempt. The world would be a little darker, a little emptier. Fear is not there to paralyze us. It is there to push us into choosing courage. Acknowledging fear gives us power over it. It's like switching on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, what seemed like a monster lurking in the shadows turns out to be nothing more than a chair or a coat hanging on the wall. Fear magnifies things. It exaggerates the risks and blinds us to the possibilities. But when we name it, when we say out loud, "Yes, I am afraid," we shrink it back down to size. And in that moment, we realize that fear doesn't have to control us. It can simply walk beside us while we keep moving forward. So the first step in this journey from fear to faith, from doubt to determination, is to face the truth that fear is real, fear is natural, and fear is human. But it is not bigger than us. It is not stronger than our will. When you acknowledge your fear, you disarm it. You begin to see that it is not a wall but a doorway, not a chain but a challenge. And once you take that first step, once you decide that fear will not define you, that's when the journey truly begins. Life has a strange way of testing us. Sometimes, it does not give us the chance to choose our circumstances, but it always gives us the chance to choose our perspective. We may not have control over what happens to us, but we do have control over what we make of it. This is where the real power lies, not in changing the storm, but in deciding how we will face it. Too often, when life throws difficulties at us, the first question we ask is, why me? That question traps us in pain because it keeps us focused on what we cannot control. But when we shift the question to, what can I learn? Or, how can this shape me? The same pain becomes a teacher, and the same obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Perspective is not just about positive thinking. It is about redefining how we see ourselves in the story of our lives. If we see ourselves only as victims of circumstance, we will always feel powerless. But if we see ourselves as survivors, as learners, as people who can rise, even when everything tries to push us down, then no difficulty can fully break us. Life changes the moment we stop focusing on what we have lost and start appreciating what we still have. And the truth is, there is always something left to be grateful for. Even in the darkest nights, there is always a flicker of light. The challenge is to train our eyes to see it. There are people who lose everything yet still smile, still serve, still inspire. What makes them different? It is not that their pain is less, but that their perspective is greater. They refuse to let suffering blind them to the beauty that still exists. They choose to believe that there is meaning even in their trials. And that choice gives them strength to rise when others collapse. The way we see our lives becomes the way we live them. If we choose to see impossibility, we will stop trying. If we choose to see opportunity, we will keep moving forward, no matter how many times we fall. It's like standing in front of a painting. Two people can look at the same canvas and see completely different things. One may see only the flaws, the dark strokes, the messy lines, while the other may see the depth, the beauty, the story within those strokes. Life is the same canvas. It is our perspective that decides whether we see it as a curse or a gift. When we decide to shift from focusing on the darkness to searching for the light, we suddenly discover strength within ourselves that we didn't even know existed. I know it is not easy to change perspective when you are in pain. It feels unfair to even think of gratitude when your heart is heavy. But sometimes, the smallest shift in perspective can save you. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, maybe this is happening for me. The same storm feels different. Suddenly, you are not only surviving it, you are growing through it. And growth makes every hardship meaningful. Perspective is what transforms fear into faith. Because when we change the way we look at challenges, we begin to see them as preparation instead of punishment. Every setback becomes training for a stronger comeback. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every scar becomes a story. And when we tell ourselves this story with honesty and hope, we begin to walk with determination instead of doubt. So let us remember, life will not always be kind, but our perspective can always be powerful. It is not about denying pain or pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing to see that even in the worst of moments, there is a lesson, a chance, and a new beginning. And once you embrace that truth, no fear can keep you trapped, because your eyes will always be fixed on the possibility that lies beyond the problem. Fear holds us in one place. It ties us down, whispers doubts, and convinces us that moving forward will only lead to pain. But faith is the bridge that carries us beyond that prison. Fear says, "What if you fall?" While faith responds, "But what if you fly?" Fear paralyzes us with possibilities of failure. But faith gives us the courage to take that very first step, even when the path is unclear. It does not promise that the road will be smooth or easy, but it promises that you will never walk it alone, and that strength will meet you along the way. Faith is not blind optimism. It is not about pretending that life is perfect. Faith is a choice to believe in something bigger than fear, bigger than doubt, and bigger than pain. When fear screams that we are not enough, faith gently reminds us that we are more than our scars, more than our failures, more than the voices that tell us we cannot. Faith is that inner voice that whispers in the silence, "Keep going, because this too shall pass." And it always does. The beauty of faith is that it doesn't require us to have the whole picture. We do not need to know how the journey will end. We just need to trust the next step. Imagine walking through a dark tunnel with only a candle in your hand. That candle doesn't light the entire tunnel, but it lights enough for the next few steps. That is what faith feels like. It doesn't remove the darkness, but it gives you just enough light to keep moving. And step by step, you find yourself closer to the end, closer to the light, closer to the life you once thought was impossible. There have been times when fear made me question everything. When I thought, maybe I should stop. Maybe I should give up. Maybe this is too much. But faith came quietly, like a gentle hand on my shoulder, reminding me that every pain has a purpose, every delay has a reason, and every closed door hides another waiting to open. Faith does not shout. It whispers, but its whisper is stronger than the loudest noise of fear. When you hold on to faith, you stop needing all the answers. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop telling yourself that you will begin only when you feel ready. Because the truth is, no one ever feels completely ready. Faith teaches us to begin even with shaking hands, even with a trembling heart, even with uncertainty. It teaches us that courage is not about walking without fear, but about walking with fear and still moving forward, because we trust that there is something greater ahead. Faith transforms the way we see failure too. Where fear sees failure as the end, faith sees it as redirection. Fear says, "This is over," but faith says, "This is only the beginning of something new." Faith reminds us that life's detours often lead us exactly where we were meant to go. And once you start believing that, setbacks lose their power to break you. Instead, they build you. So if fear is what holds us down, faith is what sets us free. It lifts us beyond the limitations of our own doubts and pushes us toward the possibilities we never imagined. It tells us that even when we cannot see the entire staircase, it is enough to take the first step. And that step, no matter how small, becomes the proof that faith is always stronger than fear. Determination is the silent fire that keeps burning when everything else fades away. Fear may knock us down, doubt may surround us, and faith may give us the courage to stand up again. But it is determination that makes sure we keep walking forward, one step at a time. Determination is not about never falling. It is about refusing to stay down. It is the decision we make every single day, sometimes every single hour, that no matter how heavy the storm, we will not let it drown us. Without determination, dreams remain only dreams, but with it, even the impossible slowly begins to bend in our favor. There is a misconception that success belongs to the most talented, the most gifted, or the most privileged. But if you look closely at the people who have truly risen above their circumstances, you will see that what set them apart was not extraordinary talent, but extraordinary determination. It was not that they never failed, but that they kept going when others gave up. It was not that life was easy for them, but that they refused to be defeated by hardship. Determination is the strength that whispers, "Try again," when the world tells you it is over. The truth is, determination is built in the darkest seasons of life. It is born when you face rejection after rejection, yet still choose to stand. It grows when you wake up every day with pain in your heart, but still give your best. It becomes unshakable when you learn that consistency is far more powerful than bursts of passion. Talent may open a door for you, but only determination will keep you walking through it when the hallway feels endless. I remember a time when it felt like giving up would be easier, when everything inside me screamed that the struggle wasn't worth it. But it was determination that held me together. It reminded me that if I stopped now, I would never know how far I could have gone. Determination doesn't always roar. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to keep moving. Even if all you can manage today is one small step, it is the belief that forward is forward, no matter how slow. Determination also reshapes the way we see resilience. Resilience is not just about bouncing back from what broke you, but about returning stronger than before. And that strength comes from determination. Every time you choose to rise again, your spirit becomes harder to crush. Every time you refuse to quit, your will becomes harder to break. It's like building muscle. The resistance, the weight, the pain, all of it creates growth. In the same way, every obstacle you face and overcome builds a determination that no one can take away from you. And here lies the beauty. Determination is not loud. It is not glamorous. It does not always get applause. But it is steady. It is patient. It is relentless. And while others may give up because the road feels too long, determination is the force that keeps you putting one foot in front of the other until suddenly, one day, you look back and realize you have climbed the very mountain you once thought was impossible. So let us remember, determination is not about avoiding failure. It is about outlasting it. It is not about instant results, but about daily commitment. And it is not about proving others wrong, but about proving to yourself that you are stronger than your circumstances. When faith gives you the courage to start, determination is what gives you the strength to continue. And it is through that consistency, that persistence, that unshakable will, that you build a life defined not by what tried to break you, but by how you refuse to be broken. Life has a way of surprising us. Just when we think we have it all figured out, something happens that shakes our world and makes us feel like everything we built is falling apart. We call those moments setbacks, and often they leave us questioning our worth, our dreams, and even our future. But what if setbacks were not endings? What if they were simply redirections, guiding us to places we would have never discovered otherwise? Every setback carries within it the seed of a comeback, but only if we choose to see it that way. When we face failure, our instinct is to label it as the final chapter. We tell ourselves that maybe we are not capable, maybe the dream is too big, or maybe life just isn't fair. And yes, sometimes life truly isn't fair. But fairness was never the promise. Growth was. Every person who has risen from fear to faith and from doubt to determination has walked through the fire of failure. They didn't escape setbacks. They embraced them, allowing the pain to become part of their strength. A comeback doesn't happen when everything goes right. It begins the moment we decide that even though we have fallen, we are not going to stay down. I remember moments when everything seemed to collapse, when I thought, this is the end of my story. But later, I realized it was not the end. It was simply the end of a chapter. And endings make way for beginnings. The doors that close often redirect us to ones we were too afraid to open ourselves. Rejection today might just be protection from something that was never meant for us. A failure today may be the training ground for the victory of tomorrow. It is in the moments of breaking that the strength for building is born. Think about a seed planted in the soil. Before it can grow, it must be buried in darkness. To the seed, it must feel like an ending, a burial. But in truth, it is only the beginning of new life. Our setbacks are like that soil. They cover us, they challenge us, they weigh us down. But hidden inside is a silent growth we cannot yet see. And one day, we rise, stronger and taller than before. That is the essence of a comeback. The beauty of turning setbacks into comebacks lies in perspective. If we see failure as a dead end, we stop. But if we see failure as feedback, we adjust, we learn, we grow. Each mistake teaches us what doesn't work and points us toward what might. Each loss carves out space in our hearts to hold deeper gratitude when the victory comes. Setbacks are painful, yes, but they are also powerful. They strip away illusions and reveal what truly matters. They teach us resilience in a way comfort never can. And here's the truth: people are not inspired by perfection. They are inspired by perseverance. No one connects to a story that is flawless, but everyone connects to a story of rising again. Your setbacks give your story depth, and your comebacks give it power. When you share how you fell yet stood back up, you become a light for someone else who is sitting in the dark wondering if they can rise too. That is the beauty of this journey. It's never just about you. So the next time life knocks you down, remember this. It may feel like an ending, but it might just be the beginning of the most powerful chapter of your life. Let your setbacks teach you, shape you, and refine you. Then let your comeback remind the world that nothing, not failure, not rejection, not loss, can stop a determined heart. Because a setback is never the full stop. It is only the comma before the rest of your story unfolds. When we walk through fear, when we learn to shift our perspective, when faith strengthens us and determination keeps us going, and when setbacks turn into comebacks, something powerful happens. We become more than survivors of our own journey. We become a source of light for others. Our story no longer belongs only to us. It becomes a story that breathes hope into someone else's darkness. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give to the world is not your success, not your achievements, not your perfect moments, but your scars and the way you rose with them. Because when you rise, you show others that rising is possible. There are people watching us silently, people we may never meet, who will never tell us how much they needed to see someone like us keep going. Maybe it's a young person doubting their worth. Maybe it's someone battling rejection. Maybe it's someone who feels their life is over after one failure. When they see you standing tall despite your pain, when they see you smiling despite your struggles, when they see you daring to walk despite the fear, they begin to believe that they too can endure. In this way, your journey of determination becomes more than personal. It becomes universal. Often we think inspiration comes only from perfection. But the truth is, no one is inspired by what looks easy. People are inspired when they see someone walking through the fire and still not giving up. Your wounds become the evidence that healing is possible. Your setbacks become the proof that comebacks are real. Your faith becomes the reminder that fear does not win. And your determination becomes the voice that whispers into the hearts of others. If they can, so can I. You may never know the full impact of your story, but every time you share your truth, every time you live with courage, every time you continue, when quitting seems easier, you give someone else permission to do the same. That is how hope spreads, not through lectures or instructions, but through lives lived with authenticity. People don't just need advice, they need examples. And you, with all your flaws, failures, and triumphs, are exactly that example. It is important to remember that inspiration does not require grand stages or loud applause. Sometimes, the most powerful inspiration is in the quietest acts. It is in showing kindness when you are hurting. It is in smiling through tears. It is in forgiving when you could have stayed bitter. It is in trying again when no one expects you to. Those small acts are like ripples in water. They expand further than you can ever imagine. One simple choice to keep going can spark the flame of determination in someone else's life. And this is the beauty of the journey from fear to faith, from doubt to determination. It never ends with us. It is meant to flow outward, to touch lives, to remind others that no matter how broken, they too can rebuild. The courage we cultivate, the resilience we grow, and the comebacks we live through are not just our victories. They are messages sent into the world saying, hope is real, strength is possible, and you are not alone. So when you rise, don't rise only for yourself. Rise for those who are watching in silence. Rise for the ones who think they cannot. Rise for the person who is praying for a sign to keep going. Let your journey be that sign. And one day, when someone else stands stronger because they saw you refuse to give up, you will realize that your pain was never wasted. It was transformed into power, into purpose, into inspiration. And that, more than anything else, is the true victory of determination.